All right, we are back for matchup number 7 today. We have Harlem versus Jabberwocky. And Jabberwocky was one of the most popular vote getters when we picked our champion based purely on poem title. So let's see if the poem lives up to the name. First up, we have Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? So there are a few things going on here with this poem, very short, but we've read a poem by Langston Hughes before, and I mentioned that he is an African-American poet. So having that background gives us a little more insight into what he might be writing about here. And what I will tell you is there is an allusion happening here to a very famous dream. Now, if you think about the civil rights movement, that'll probably give you a hint as to what I'm referring to. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. And what he said in that speech as to what his dream was for African Americans, equality. So then the word deferred means put off, or delayed. So with that information, we can kind of get a better understanding of what he's talking about in this poem. So what happens to a dream that is put off or delayed? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Do you just give up? Or does it fester like a sore? So does it live underneath the skin, never healing, always festering, always bothering you? Does it stink like rotten meat? You can't escape it. You're always reminded of that dream. Or crust and sugar over, like a syrupy sweet. So that would say that you put it underneath the surface and you try to ignore the fact that that dream hasn't been realized. But maybe it just sags like a heavy load. So it weighs you down, that knowledge of that dream that's been deferred. And I just realized that the last line of this poem is missing, but the last line of the poem is, or does it explode? So if you think about the civil rights movement and all of the emotions that happened there, whether it be nonviolent protests or even some groups that were more violent in their protests, these are all things that are discussed in this poem without ever mentioning the civil rights movement. So word choice and imagery is really important in this poem, as is in the next poem that we're going to look at, Jabberwocky. All right, Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the man's-own foe he sought. So rested he by the tumtum tree, and stood awhile in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes aflame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, Callooh, Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. All right, so word choice is a big part of this poem. And at first, it seems like a nonsense poem, which it kind of is, because it includes words that mean nothing to us. It's nonsense. But the way the poem is written, it follows our regular syntax so that we can actually find meaning in the nonsense words. What syntax is the way that words are typically arranged in a sentence, so that even if we don't understand the words themselves, we can find meaning through the syntax. So let me give you an example. So 'twas is just a way of saying it was. And then brillig is describing, let's say, the weather. So this is an adjective. As with slithy toves, we know that adjectives come before nouns. So slithy is describing whatever toves are. Did gyre and gimble, so these are two verbs here, so we could replace those with something like run and jump in the noun. All adjective were the nouns, and the adjective nouns outgrabe. So actually a fun activity to do here with this poem, and one that I've done before, is to look at the poem and replace the adjectives and nouns and verbs with things that you want to replace them with. So because of our understanding of syntax, we can find meaning in this poem. So, down here where it says came whiffling, you can replace that with a verb. Told ye is an adjective describing the woods. Burbled is a verb. And then here, calloo, calais, we could replace with words like yay and we, or other exclamations that we would understand. Oh, frabjous day, we could replace with a joyous day. Chortled actually is a word that describes laughing. It might not be one we recognize, so you could replace that with another word for laughing. Now, if you do go on the internet and search up what a Jabberwocky is, you can find people that have tried to define what some of these words are. Basically, it's just kind of like one of those websites where people put in what they think it is, but there really is no real Jabberwocky. It's just a creature. So you could make your own poem where you come up with a new creature, maybe a new name, but you could replace all of the parts of speech present in the poem with your own and come up with your new poem. So that would be a fun activity that you might want to try. So go ahead and vote for either Harlem or Jabberwocky, both poems where word choice and imagery is very important.